heard of democracy before? The concept by which we run our nation. Yeah, we're trying to spread it through force. Wait, what? So it's kind of a relevant topic at the moment. And there's a thing, the election. It's this really cool event that's happening that you can get free tickets for. And it's happening in November. Put it on your calendar. There's a tour happening around the country where they're going to set up all these cool events. You can go vote. And if you're wondering who's going to win the election, this talk is going to be really cool because they actually they know who's going to win because they are using science. So if you're ready to hear, like, watch every slide because one of them is going to announce the winner. Definitely, that is a true statement.
I'm terrified.
Without further ado, I want to learn who's going to win.
Yay.
Take it away.
So we are Mark and Melissa, and we worked on this project together called Predict 16. If you have your devices out, you can find it at predict16.com. And the subtitle for the talk is A Couple Who JS Together Stay Together.
Is it JS or JS is?
JS, I know, it's a raging debate. So what we hope you guys get out of this, we hope that you get some inspiration to work with someone who's close to you, maybe a sibling or a partner, whatever, someone who's maybe into design if you're into UX or back-end and a front-end developer.
Yeah, and we'll also talk about some of the things that we incorporated in the project, and we'll try not to go into too much interesting/boring technical detail, but we'll just touch on the architecture, and then after the talk, if you guys want to ask more detailed questions, I'm happy to at length.
And we also hope you guys just get some motivation to vote. I wrote down kick in the pants to vote, whichever totally works. So we are both married.
We haven't always been developers.
I was trying to find a good GIF. I was like, Mark, what's a good developer GIF? Because I can like yell into the next room.
The answer is all of them.
All of them. Yeah, that. And even before being developers, we collaborated together on various projects while being a couple. We managed to release some music together, released a couple albums, we played shows, and we've toured, and anyone who has like done that kind of stuff, you know that it's really hard work. I actually think that releasing an album was the hardest thing I've ever done. And we've also collaborated on more stuff.
Yeah, many summers ago, I thought it would be a great idea to study as much political economy as we possibly could. So we tried to do a summer of Marx, not that Marx, nope, not that one either, yep, that one. We were both in grad school at the time, and it kind of made sense. But for whatever reason, that did not end up.
We didn't have a lot of time. We were writing like theses and stuff like that. So as we've been moving along in our development careers, we've oddly enough been sort of doing similar things.
Yeah, I started in Rails and then moved into PHP and then happily into Node and front-end engineering with React.
And then I was doing more design, more front-end work. I moved into PHP and then moved into React. And what's really been cool is that whether it's been sort of like a CS question or a JS question, we can bounce ideas off each other and we can solve problems together. And as you guys know, as developers, it's really good to be learning new skills. I can come home talking about like A/B testing, and you know, Mark can come home with questions. It's usually CSS questions or yeah, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Which brings us to 2016. We both love politics, and we've been glued to the debates, the RNC, the DNC, as I'm sure everyone here has too. I actually studied political science as an undergraduate, and I was trying to think of some sort of app I could develop, you know, something short-term that centered around politics, and I kept on coming up with these ideas of doing like some sort of language type thing with Trumpisms. But then in the middle of the summer, I was like, there's no place where I can find like a prediction roundup. You can find lots of poll roundups, but no prediction aggregator, at least not that I could find at the time. So I mentioned this one night. I woke up the next morning, and Mark had already written a scraper for it. And because it was no fun to just be like hard coding stuff in this app every day, we decided to move forward with this scrapers idea and trying to come up with an app that then we called Predict 16.
Yeah, so for polls, what you see a lot though is polls tell you, who's going to win, what percentage of the vote somebody has. Right? Like, here's some examples: Reuters, CNN, YouGov, your Monmouth University, American Research Group, and so on. And then, of course, we were interested in not polling, but predictions. Maybe the most famous one is the great Nate Silver's 538.com. Some other ones we looked at: New York Times, CNN, Sabato's Crystal Ball, and so on. Because we couldn't find anywhere that sort of showed us all of the prediction results, we decided to, do this Predict 16 app. And so just like a brief overview of the architecture and services and stuff. So apologies in advance because it's going to be gross oversimplification of everything. Basically the front end is an API-driven universal React app with Redux. The scraper application uses Cheerio and Nightmare, which uses Electron, and it's super awesome. And the API is in Happy.js, which I can't say enough good things about as well. It's a server-side node framework anyways. And all of that stuff is deployed to AWS, so maybe it's still standing. If everyone in here looked at it, maybe we can test the infrastructure, but cool.
Yeah, so the first iteration that we had, so because the front end is just scalable to sort of consume whatever we're throwing at it, we can have as many prediction sources as we want. But the first version just had 538, which we talked about, and then this psychic, who may or may not be really accurate. We don't know. We did run into some challenges as we were starting to develop this. So one of the scrapers that we decided to incorporate was the New York Times Upshot, which actually was launched right in the middle of the summer. So this was the first one that I started to write. And so for those of you who don't know, when you're visiting New York Times sites, as you can see in the upper corner, you kind of hit a paywall after you've read so many articles. That's what happens when you've read 3 out of 10 articles for the month. You get this after reading 5 out of 10 articles for the month. And then after 10, oh no. So when I was writing the scraper, I was trying to return the HTML back from the page, but all that I kept on seeing was weird stuff, which ended up looking like this. And I tried a few things to get around it. I tried, for those of you who are asking, like, change the headers. I tried messing with the cookies. Didn't really work. And I mentioned this to Mark, and he started working on it too, because I can yell down the hall and ask for some help. And so we came up with this idea of circumventing this with using Nightmare, which for our purposes, in very basic terms, it just runs the equivalent of a browser on your server. That's how we're using it. And we realized that we remember that if you go through Google and you click on a New York Times article and you've already hit your 10 limit, you can get to it, but what Google returns is really difficult to parse. So the solution was Bing.
Thanks, Bing.
Yeah. So here's a really quick video that just kind of shows you what's happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, basically this is just like what happens when you run the application. You can pass to Nightmare, but your config option to like show what's actually being rendered behind the scenes. So this is just a demo of that. It's pretty cool if you haven't seen it. So that's just all automation, pretty neat.
Bing. Then it clicks on the first one.
Oh,
yeah.
bypass that paywall.
Yeah, awesome. So then, what is next?
Yeah, so we like React, obviously, and so we're naturally a little React Native curious. Since there's already an API, it would be pretty easy to develop a React Native app, which we're thinking about doing while we still have time. We're also, I've been playing around with AWS Lambdas to see what we can and can't do for our infrastructure. I've been having problems trying to run Nightmare on it. If anybody's actually succeeded in running Nightmare on the Lambda, I'd be very interested to hear how you did it. So yeah, please come talk to me. Also, design and more data. Obviously, we could like continue adding scrapers. Or yeah, I mean, there's no problem there. And then of course designing. And then after the election, I guess we'd have to like terminate the servers and then sell the domain for millions of dollars.
Millions of dollars. So basically what we just hope you guys get out of this is that like working with your partner or your best friend, your sibling, it's not always going to work, but you guys should try it. It's really good to challenge yourself to work with people who you don't work for on a regular basis for your job, but who might be close to you because they might be honest and really helpful. The next thing is that you can think of these projects as short-term. We don't work with each other all the time. We don't work together at our jobs. We don't collaborate all the time. This is just something that we thought would be fun, and it has a pretty finite, date on it. It's short-term, it's low commitment, it's a short project. We also both love politics, so it was really fun doing this too. The other thing that you can do when you're doing short-term, low commitment projects with friends, loved ones, whatever, is that you can get new skills to add to your CV. You can have something to add to your portfolio. Mark and I have really different aptitudes, different skill sets, different ways of approaching development problems, and talking through with someone who's not in your, your work environment is always a good thing.
Oh yeah, and there's also do it.
Main takeaway, vote.
Yeah.
In fact, vote please.
If you haven't registered to vote, the deadline in Oregon is October 18th.
Yeah, today is National Voter Registration Day.
Ooh, so good.
So hopefully everyone, before this prepresentation is done, has already gone on their phones, voteplease.org,
Yes.
registered,
This
especially
site
if
is
you haven't
amazing.
registered in Oregon.
It's a nonprofit. They literally mail to your house a self-addressed stamped envelope with the voter registration card in it. You sign it, you date it, you put it in the mailbox, and you're done.
Yep.
You can even track it on their website. Anyways,
Yep.
they're pretty awesome.
Yeah, when we started, the numbers were wildly different than what they look like now. The
It's true.
prediction numbers were wildly different. Here are GitHub links, if you guys are curious.
Look at the codes.
Look at the
Take
codes
the codes, use the codes.
and let the right one in.